Experience, Jackson Snyder presents. We will examine the life of our Master Yeshua by discovering his ancestors, family, and friends, by reviewing rare ancient manuscripts, and speaking to those who know him best. From the Vero Essene Yahad, now Experience, Jackson Snyder presents.
One thing I heard about tonight that is pretty interesting, and that is syndromes. Coronavirus anxiety syndrome. Put that down in the book to compare with 5G anxiety syndrome. Are you scared of coronavirus? Well, everybody is to some extent, or I wouldn't have seen those masks when I went out today. And I started getting a little 5G anxious when we did our meetings on 5G, because what we read there seemed to be, in the long run, very dangerous, since cell towers have to be put up so close together and so many of them. But if you've got coronavirus anxiety syndrome or 5G anxiety syndrome, I did read ways that you can get rid of this by experts. And I'm going to share these with you, because it could be before this is all over, you're going to need these tips. Number one, to fight these anxiety syndromes, make sure to drink 8 glasses of water a day. And exercise. That'll help you too. But if it doesn't help you enough, binge watch TV shows. These come from the experts, they know these things. Or write down your feelings, burn the paper that you wrote them on, and your anxieties will just simply go away. Another thing is to engage in wholesome activities, like scrubbing that toilet you've put off for the last 3 weeks. And another thing that seems to be coming around here is compulsive disorders, compulsive hand washing. I have a little refrigerator. A fellow came today to buy it. He had his face mask on. He was sterile, like a doctor. He had his hands up in the air, like, I'm sterile. Came to the door. Well, do you want to see it? He said, no. I'm keeping my social distancing here. And so we brought it out to him and showed it to him. And he took it. He bought it. Didn't have a problem holding on to the money that I gave him back as change. But he said, I've got an 80-year-old mother at home, and I'm being super careful following the directions so I don't get this. Well, that was, I think that was a very reasonable response to our looking at him like he was from a different planet. Compulsive hand washing. I've been doing it too. Because if that coronavirus is anything like that respiratory disease I got last year and was in the hospital for, I don't want anything like that. Although I've been told too, in that video, I'll put up the link for that. It's a very good video, a scientific video by a woman doctor who has been employed for years and years in dissecting DNA and recombining it. Can't remember her name right now. But she seemed to either say or imply that everybody's already got this to some extent. And what she said about face masks, that those that have a bigger propensity to have this because they've got some of it in their system, and those that have overcome it. A face mask is a very dangerous thing to wear because you're concentrating that virus in the face mask, and you can reinfect yourself through the mask. I've also seen some great masks. People are innovating because they're hard to get. I saw somebody I was on Zoom with the other day showed how to turn a pair of common underwear into a face mask in such a way that nobody knows about it. Well, I got a video of that, which I'm going to put up pretty soon, because that's really creative, to use a pair of underpants. And there was another one that used an old woman's brassiere to make a face mask. The only thing is, his entire face fitted inside that big old cup. And I read another article today that one of the reasons they want to get 5G going, especially during this time where everybody is kept in, is because the airways are being crammed by porn movies. That people are turning to pornography to while away their time. And because of the pornography that's being run, the 4G networks are being overrun. And we need to go to 5G. And what it sounds to me is for the sake of those who are enjoying their pornography. When I'm looking at celebrities and conspiracies, several celebrities wrote on Twitter and some put videos on Facebook in different places like Tumblr, where they believed that there was an intersection between the 5G and the coronavirus, and that there was a conspiracy to hide this, and that the coronavirus was being used to promote 5G, and 5G was used to promote the coronavirus. When I looked at the celebrities who were heralding this idea, well, I didn't know any of them. And I don't think any of them had a PhD or something like that. They're just primarily young singers, television stars, I guess. I've never seen any of them before. So what makes a celebrity gives them the means by which that they can make judgment calls about things that are way outside their purview. So like the doctor on the commercial says, why is this toothpaste better than the other? I ought to know. I play a dentist on TV. We look up to some of these people for the characters they play rather than who they are. And I think that is rightful when the New Testament calls these people hypocrites, hypokritoi, which means in Greek, actors, living the lie. There's just a couple comments for you that came through my mind here today in the last few days. I can't wait to put up the underwear video. You're going to like that. I'm thinking of doing that myself. Oh, we've got some chat already. Unwashed toilets, that's for sure. And I've been here for a month with the rotavirus. What do you think I've been putting off doing? Okay. And vaccines. Another thing about vaccines. The doctor that I talked about a minute ago, I need to put up this link for those that are going to be online listening to this later. She said that she made these vaccines and she would never take one of these vaccines because, in fact, even a virus, you're not going to get dead viruses in there to give you an immune reaction because viruses are not living creatures anyway. They are just manipulators of recombinant DNA. So she talked about the concoctions that are in those needles and what is actually being put in. And with all this hype now about vaccines are okay and anti-vaxxers ought to be put on trial and some ought to be eliminated, I'm thinking just by hearing this person who seemed to understand this technology from the soup to the nuts probably is saying something that's very true concerning vaccinations. They mutate. You can't take the flu vaccine. It's probably a good thing that you don't take it, because in that flu vaccine, there is SARS vaccine as well. And as you know, SARS is very close. It's another corona-type virus. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, when SARS came out, they called it a coronavirus.
May I say what the symptoms are? Do you mind?
Go, yeah.
All right. Years ago, I had the flu one time. I was sick for 2 weeks. I was ill. The next year, I took the flu vaccine. But that year, I could feel when they gave me the shot in my left arm, I could feel this weird tingling all down my arm. And about 2 weeks later, eruptions occurred on my skin, like an eczema, that came up as little pustules that were filled with nothing, just clear stuff as far as I could see without any microscope or anything else or magnifier. And they carried on as I think, as I later read about, this is not uncommon when you have a reaction to a vaccine. It is not what the CDC says about a vaccine. It's what other people say about what happens when you have a vaccine reaction. I took this thing for 4 years and the same reaction happened. I mean, it looked horrid. My whole left forearm was covered with this surface plaque and open sores for until like December or January, and we traditionally at work got them about mid-September, late September, and it was hideous. And the year I decided I think there's some sort of correlation here, and I stopped taking it, I've never had it again.
Don't you think that might be a kind of virus anxiety, that you're trying to put these two things together that probably are just a figment of your fear? No,
honestly, when the first year that I had the flu vaccine, I was convinced from having had the flu the year before, and everyone at work saying, oh, you must get this. Plus, it was a cultural thing at work. Because if one person got it, all 200 people would get it, and no one would be at work, and we would all suffer, right? So the point was everyone needs to take it so that we're all there and don't get sick. It was a work culture thing. You must take this.
Yeah.
So I took it that year. I was sick. I thought it was some sort of weirdo thing. Second year, took it, had that reaction. Thought, well, maybe it's an allergy at that time of year. Third year, same thing happened. Fourth year, I said, I saw a little bit about vaccines and something about, I believe it was the aluminum in it or maybe the mercury that will just go straight out of your skin. Your body can't process it. It comes straight out of the nearest place because your system won't process it. It just exits it at the nearest port. And I said, maybe there's something to that. So the next year I did not take it, and I have not had it since. That's not very scientific, but
it's pretty scientific. You found evidence of it like the third year, right?
Oh, fourth year, yes. And it's not an anxiety. I didn't think it was caused by that. I thought it was sort of a seasonal skin allergy or something weird. But once I stopped taking it, I haven't had it since. And that's been 4 years, something like that.
So now that you've told us that, why don't you tell us, you've got to excuse the background here. I'm in the middle of eBay sales and I got junk everywhere. Now that that's done, suppose you tell us about, since you experienced that vaccine anxiety that actually brought up imaginary bubbles all over your skin. What do you think about 5G conspiracy being corresponding with the coronavirus conspiracy now?
Sure, I don't know, because I had read much on 5G on Facebook, which isn't all that reliable, and a lot of the people who I am friends with on Facebook, that is a huge thing. They believe it. And there are some scientific surveys that say this isn't very good. It will promote in some people this sort of reaction, this, that, and the other, that can mimic flu or can mimic a respiratory disease. However, if you look at all the countries, I just saw this today, that actually have COVID-19, only 5 have 5 or 6 or something like that. And don't quote me, I'm just reading Facebook things, all right? That's not a good scientific thing. They said that only 5 or 6 people of all the countries that have this have 5G. The rest of the countries, which there's like a boodle is not a very scientific term, but it means a bunch more than 5. And they have coronavirus and do not have 5G. Sorry.
Well, I didn't mean to put you down saying that was just all in your head, but just using that as an illustration, thought maybe you'd get your goat a little bit and you would react and get some more bubbles on your skin. Now, Onya says, did you say imaginary bubbles? Because some people can get an allergic reaction to vaccines. That's one of the rare side effects. You're a very rare vintage and you get the very rare side effects. Sorry. A little bit about this conspiracy. I guess I ought to tell you where I stand on it. I just don't know. It's too much of a coincidence. Right down to major outbreak places where the major installation of 5G is. At about the same time, within a very short period, even in Wuhan, where supposedly the virus originated from eating bats or some ridiculous thing like that. This thing originated in a laboratory, no doubt about it, and it got out. But we're fearing the invisible. The question is, are we fearing it for a good purpose or not? And I've got to admit that, like you said, some of our friends on Facebook in the think tank are absolutely fascinated with this topic. And they post and they post and they post. A lot of it's good, and maybe a lot of it isn't. Here's a little bit from Slate, a quote. Before every pandemic in the last 150 years, there was a quantum leap in the electrification of the Earth. That's the thesis statement of a YouTube video with the innocuous little Dr. Thomas Cowan, MD, discussing the coronavirus. Wonder if I could get that link. I can't get it here because I'm not online with it. It's just a 10-minute video. Maybe you saw it. It just shows a man lecturing in front of a whiteboard. Looks like any other low-budget conference video. But the thesis that pandemics are linked to the electrification of the Earth, now that gets attention. The electrification of the Earth. Now, that video was posted somewhere around March 20th. And at the writing of this particular article, it had been watched 660,000 times. And they say that this little vlog has inspired a curious, dangerous conspiracy theory that is the new 5G mobile networks are causing the spread of COVID-19. This goes on to say what we already know, that 5G mobile networks are much faster transmission speeds, probably 100 times. You've seen 5G constantly on commercials if you watch any kind of commercial media. They have become a background for technological dominance between the United States and China. Now, the Trump administration has announced their plan for winning the race for 5G, and tech sources bemoan that the United States had fallen behind China. Some of these networks, as we learned before, were activated in 2019, and somehow, they're saying somehow, when they've already given us the reason, 5G got linked to the virus in some people's mind. But while the circumstances of this specific conspiracy aren't unique, the links between mobile networks and disease are a prime example of how history repeats itself. Almost every new wireless infrastructure gets linked to the disease in one form or the other. Now, besides this virus going crazy in areas where 5G is working, here are some other pretty strange coincidences. In 1960 was the emergence of commercial radio waves. Of course, 1980, the Spanish flu outbreak killed everybody. 2003, 3G was introduced to the world, and that year was the SARS outbreak. In 2009, 4G. In 2009, swine flu. And now in 2019, 5G is introduced and coronavirus outbreaks. That almost seems to lend credibility to the idea that the Earth has become electrified and that every pandemic of the last 150 years came from that. I think that's some pretty incredible conspiracies or coordinations myself. And after our study of 5G, we know that that kind of microwave can cause mutations, can cause DNA in plants, animals, people to mutate and change. We also know that they need to have a tower, or, well, I guess it would be an antenna now, about every 100 yards in order to make this a viable technology, because the wavelength is so short, it's got to be picked up in a quick hurry. And so these antennas are going to be close to the ground. They're going to be on electrical poles. They're going to be on the corners of the roofs of businesses. And also, most probably, if you get yourself a virtual network, there's going to be one on your roof, just like there used to be a satellite dish out there. Wow. Besides that, the conspiracy is being splattered all over Instagram, WhatsApp, Nextdoor. And oh yeah, there's one celebrity I've heard of, that's Woody Harrelson. Speaking on Instagram, people in the UK have reacted to this. Several 5G towers have been burned down, and I understand that in Wuhan, China, if there's anybody left there, that those towers have also been attacked, and that there are 5G demonstrations going on in the cities of China. Of course, that's hard to find out for sure, but that's what we've heard anyway. Let's see. Now, most scientists disagree with this, but these people that are so for this, they've got something to gain in this, and it's money, or it's being on the top of the heap, or it's being the fastest network. And I believe there has not been sufficient testing here, and I don't think all the testing in the world is going to change the fact that 5G does mutate DNA. And to top that off, there's another conspiracy that goes along with this, and that is that Russian intelligence agencies have worked hard to spread this rumor as well on American social media so that people here would get to distrusting technology. Now, wouldn't it be shocking, if Russia played a role in boosting the 5G-COVID19 conspiracy as well? I'm sure they are. So here in a final paragraph, it's worth asking why these links come up again and again. Is there something about wireless communication infrastructure that lends itself to concerns about everything from mind control to cancer to pandemics, not to mention 5G anxiety? Remember, drink lots of water, 8 glasses a day. Maybe there is a correspondence. Maybe the fact that radio waves are all around us, invisible and intangible, yet so consequential, elicits a fear in the unseen. Hey, these radio waves are different. They're not run-of-the-mill. We may never know for sure, but we know that the 5G COVID-19 conspiracies are only newest in a long line of concern about wireless infrastructure, and this will not be the last time we see people trying to link a new wireless infrastructure to some kind of deadly disease. Well, it seems to me that probably the deadliest disease is already here. It's a disease of the mind that is brought forth by the kind of open and free communication that we've been able to have. I'm not saying that that's bad. For me, it's been very good. Talking about social media, digital mail, it's been very good for all of us. We wouldn't know each other had it not been for that. But at the same time, it has changed our country in a great way. And I think the older you are, the more you can say yes to how it has. This country is completely different now with the wireless infrastructure we have and how it's used than it was, say, I'm going to say 20 years ago, maybe less. Go out and watch a Lindsay Wagner movie from the 90s and see the difference in technology. Comments? Maybe?
See that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Kenneth watched a video earlier, the link Spanish flu to the power lines going up to the early 1900s, saying basically that anytime we change major electricity or waves around us, it affects us. I believe that. Allison, maybe the people who don't use electromagnetic power sources have less risk, though the rural population is supposedly being hard hit right now, like the big ones.
Got another one that's a little further back. It says the hubs for the 5G seem to be in more populated areas. Maybe there's some link to that. There are also many modern things that can cause DNA changes. A lack of good natural foods or good healthy food that's not manufactured or modified can let that happen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Eternal Father made us to survive a whole spectrum of changes in our DNA. You know, who knows? Maybe this is what I call it the electromagnetic revolution, like the Industrial Revolution, vis-a-vis how it affected the working class.
Oh, yeah.
We'll need to look at that.
Yeah, especially
because
the small population.
All right, for my example here, we're on shelter at home, and anything that is not deemed essential, and I don't know if you want to hear this or not, but
go ahead.
Anything that is not deemed essential is closed down.
Well, beloved, we have to take a little break now. We'll be back when it's finished, promise. Just as I promised, Jackson Snyder Present is back now to finish up message and fulfill promise.
I worked at a restaurant as a cook, waitress, blah, 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 dishwasher, whatever, everything. It was a really small place. First week, we all got laid off.
Wow.
You know, we all got sent home because they didn't want people coming in who can contaminate each other.
This is
this is 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yes, okay.
All right. So then it expanded in my state, which is Virginia. I'm not sure exactly how long ago. I've been on lockdown. I don't remember. But they told you to stay at home, only go out for groceries or necessities like pharmaceutical stuff you need, groceries, necessities, and make sure that you all did it in one trip and only made one trip here and there. You know, don't just go out one thing and then come back. Okay, so, but to everyone who was in a service industry, we're all unemployed.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting at home and we're on lockdown. We're told not to go out. Now, to me, that is an unsafe situation because that can also breed a whole lot of death. If no one is contacting other people and letting them know what's going on, you know, your whole little apartment of people could be sick and don't know it.
Absolutely.
And who's going to know?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And they've locked down all our centers of worship here. You cannot go out and congregate more than 10 people. The grocery stores, they have marks on the floor where, oh, we can only let this many people in. You have to wait. And you have to wait 6 feet apart. Now, I agree with that, though. If it is some sort of plague, COVID plague, that you need to stay apart because of the distance that you can transmit it, I accede to that. I think that's wonderful. But a lot of people do not get that. Even though you've got, all right, here's a space here, and then 6 feet in front and 6 feet in front, the people behind you are tapping on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. But
you know what, I heard a statistic here recently that with the increase in coronavirus flu,
yeah,
an equal decrease in regular flu is being seen.
I've seen that. Last week I saw something that someone I'm a friend with on Facebook, I'm not sure who I don't remember, but they said seasonal flu was like 145,000 deaths at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And coronavirus was like 10,000. Now, I don't know everything. Perhaps this is a voracious sort of bug, and we need to do this. But I've also seen other people who are posted on Facebook saying that abortion has killed more people. I hate to say that. I don't want to be political, but they'd say that has killed more lives to this point than coronavirus.
Well, see,
and also, sorry,
abortions don't threaten anybody.
No, they really don't. They actually make people relieved, which is horrid.
So they say.
Mm-hmm. You pay your whole life, I'm sure. Though. Sorry, I'm gone.
Kenneth, same here. I heard this today about the 6 foot rule. You can't really be spread that way. They said maybe if you stayed close to someone within 6 feet, like for, an hour or something, maybe you can remember that time. You might have a chance of getting it. But another thing I remembered about 5G is that if they're able to implement this all over the world, speaking of nutrition, and this is able to change the DNA in plants, what are we going to be able to eat? Things are going to be more irradiated than ever before. Everything will be irradiated. Everyone, not that we aren't, we are, but this is in great increase from what we're already getting concerned. Now I'm going to show you a church that for the first time in 200 years, it has a value. Are you ready? Don't hold your breath. Open your eyes. St. John Divine Cathedral in New York City holds a minimum of 600 people. And here it is with the pews gone. You know, this stuff just looks foreign to me. This stuff, I guess that's not in the narthex. That's some kind of a shrine.
But
it looks
they've set down the backs of the pews for beds. Amazing.
They got rid of all the pews, actually, and brought beds in.
Okay.
400 beds, I think. That's a good thing for the church to do, but that church hasn't been doing anything for anybody for 100 years. I mean, it's just a huge behemoth that they maintain for the sake of historical, I guess. But here we go. I mean, this is a new use for the church. All churches. Maybe they should all go to this. Just going and trying to rent a church hall anymore, you've got to go through all kinds of questions about your own faith to rent that hall that's not being used. Perhaps now this will cause some other churches to consider their own mission and ministry in their areas and maybe open up to something else. Here's a tent that's being raised inside, and it gives you an idea in this picture of the incredible size of this place. And if you ever read my essay or listened to it, The Fifth Temptation of the Christ, it takes place right there.
Do you have a link to that?
Yeah, it's in the book.
Crap. I don't think I've listened to that one.
It's in the book Gallant Friends. Messiah and his gallant friends.
Make me work. All right, thank you.
All right, that's all on this. It's going to be a temporary emergency hospital. The Cathedral of St. John the Divine. What would St. John think if they built this place, if he knew they built this place in his honor and they called him the Divine?
He'd be turning. He'd be spinning. All of this stuff is way beyond what those, in my opinion, which isn't worth much.
Don't you think he'd be getting himself a YouTube channel?
He would be getting him a YouTube channel to hammer out what he really thought. You know,
okay.
It wouldn't be this. This is.
By the way, this is not a Catholic church. This is an Episcopal church.
I don't care.
Okay, I'm glad. Actually, the coronavirus pandemic may fast forward 5G adoption in the U.S., according to tech drivers at CNBC. The work on 5G has increased 75% over the previous week on a week-by-week basis. The FCC and federal government are trying to accelerate deployment in urban and rural areas, but the global pandemic has forced a supply chain slowdown that may delay further expansion of 5G. They probably need to stop it entirely for the time being, just in case.
Just in case, I agree, because there have been many reports from Europe that it killed all sorts of smaller animals, and it cannot. Look, I don't know. All I read is what I see. I don't have any scientific research to back it up. But when it says it kills small things like honeybees or insects, things that are all integral to life. All life is integral to the process of living for everything, not just humans, everything. And if one thing is being killed, we've learned this already through pollution. If you snuff out one part of this whole grand design that the Creator made, you're onto a path of disaster. So you need to not take it into your own hands. You need to look at all the aspects of it before you go and try to profit from it. Now, I am a capitalist, and I believe in making some profit for your efforts. But we've got to save, yes, Kenneth, we need to save the bees. That's what pollinate all the things that we eat.
Yeah.
Well, if we destroy the smaller things, if we destroy if we in our arrogance take things out that we know nothing about, then where are we? We are in a nuclear winter or a torrid winter or something else. We really got to know what we're messing with when we mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't well said.
Well, that's enough to give you 5G anxiety right there. Because reading these articles, and I've gone through a lot of them the last few days, they are just gangbusters about getting this up and running. What is going to be the benefit here to homeowners? Well, here's a quote from an article, why the coronavirus pandemic may fast forward 5G adoption, in the source that I mentioned before. Listen to this. The jury's still out on whether home broadband, which needs to have lower capacity than more robust business networks, will be able to handle the traffic as whole neighborhoods become Wi-Fi hotbeds, as adult video conferencing with their co-workers. Their teens stream these videos in between checking Blackboard for assignments. Adult video conferencing? Teens between their assignments in school at home? So providers like AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, they're facing a test of whether they'll be able to handle the increased demand. And what is playing down here is they are predicting the increased demand through pornography. Isn't that what adult video conferencing is? And isn't that what streaming is used most for than anything else? Streaming pornography?
Do you think that really is what it's for?
Oh, yes, I do, because I've looked at those statistics before.
Okay.
And by and large, the greatest use of broadband is for porn. Now, I can't quote where I got that at, but of course it comes to my mind. And because I never lie and I'm always right, then you can count on it. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is a holy day.
Yeah, let's remember it is a holy day.
Yeah, this is first day, just ended the first day of unleavened bread. Today, Wednesday, is this the 8th of April, 2020. So there's a possibility here that the networks that are already up aren't going to be able to handle it anyway. But again, there's such a risk here. Let me see, anything else good here? 2020 looks to be the year of 5G, and 100 times faster download speeds. I'd be more concerned about my upload speed. And all these carriers deploying starting in 2019, their goal was to have it all done by the end of 2020, here in the United States anyway. So let's see. They're thinking now that this is going to slow down the production, maybe give us time to do a little more research in these areas, because honestly, especially after your comments, Allison, I'm getting more and more 5G anxiety. And I'm out of water. So I can't get any water for at least 10 minutes.
You don't have a purifier or anything?
A what?
You don't have a purifier or
no.
A filtration?
I use bottled water. If you've had the water down here, I'm sure.
No, actually I haven't. I've always had the filtered stuff.
Oh, I thought when you stayed down here you might have had some water. It tastes like it's come out of a swimming pool.
No, that's why I drank filtered kind or the bottled kind. I understand. I always use filtered or purified water. I do that here as well. And that may help. Who knows? I mean, they put so many things in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. But I really think if you deny paranoia, have a little trust, a little hope, and try to just stay as healthy as you can, some people are just going to fall. Some people are going to not. I'm sure in the time of the fall of the temple, a lot of really good people didn't make it. And it's just part of the human condition, unfortunately. Hopefully it's not going to be that huge. But all of us have to fall at one point. Sorry, didn't mean to be a bummer.
Oh, I know. What a bummer. Take a look at this
I'm going away.
Quick.
Bye.
You can't leave right now. Take a look at this map. We saw that. No, we didn't see this before, but I can't get this map any bigger. And look here. We can't even see the statistics on it, but we can see how that virus is distributed throughout the world. And somebody was saying the other day that Africa wasn't getting much because they didn't have 5G in Africa. But it looks here to me that, yes, it's lower there than like Brazil, North America, China, where 5G in Brazil is also set up.
Okay, well, but look, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to argue with you.
No,
I'm just
I want you to tell me.
Look, you've got 1,000 plus and then 10,000 plus. That is a huge, gradation in the scale. And how is that? What is that per square mile, meter, foot? Come on, that's not a good map. I mean, seriously, that's not accurate. That's globally. Right, look, you're saying put that screen back in, or let me see it again.
Making it a little bigger.
Or a little smaller, back where I could see it. All right, bring it down. Thank you. You have, all right, the red is 1 through 999, all right? Per what? Square mile, square kilometer, square thousand mile, per population? Who knows? That is a crap statistic.
It is crap.
It is, seriously. Look, I mean, per what? I'm sorry, I'm a type 5. This is the kind of thing I find. What does that mean? All right, yes, there's 10,000 in China and America and parts of South America and parts of the Middle East, but 10,000 plus per what? Per million? Per square mile? Per who knows?
Yeah,
that's just a completely manipulated.
Well, it looks to me like it's in the aggregate, all cases.
But
that's still a.
You still, you have to know what is the population per country to get that to mean anything. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. Sorry.
That map is crap.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be being a jerk, but I mean it means nothing. It's a scare tactic unless you know how many people and how many cases and what percentage of that is. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, no offense. That's just me being a type 5. Sorry. I'll go away now.
Kind of says, some say they have proven that map bogus. Good night. You know, how much bogus do we need to wade through here to get the facts in this? I think the most honest that I have heard was in that 2-hour video. Did I put the link up here?
No, it's on Facebook. Put it here just in case. You might want to speak it out for your HNR.
Yeah.
Because I listened to about 10 minutes of it, but that's all I had time for. It sounded very good. I'm sorry.
It's really boring.
Yeah, but, you know.
It's just packed full of first-hand knowledge by someone who has done this.
Yeah, I get that. And I think I tend to believe people who are on the job dealing with the things. Then I tend to believe somebody who has some sort of skewed data with no rational basis and is trying to scare people, you know?
All right. Here's the link.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to be such a jerk.
No, you're doing good. I don't know if it's worth reading here. It's long. I'll put it on the show notes if anybody wants to look at it, but I would suggest that you watch it closely, even though it is rather tedious to watch and will give you some kind of anxiety disorder. Yet this woman, if it is indeed a woman, has something very important to share here, especially about vaccination. And, you know, she's fabricated these things her whole life, so she knows what she's talking about. And she was so emphatic about anti-vaxxing, though I don't think she really meant to be.
No.
She was really matter of fact about everything.
No, she's awesome. I wish we could get somebody who could listen to this 2 hours, 1 hour and 58 minutes, and condense it into a report for us, because it's TMI for me. I can't sit still long enough to listen to that. But the part I listened to was essential. It was very good, to the point, and sounded authoritative. Sorry. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
All right. If you want some information you know is going to be right on and insightful, you only have one chance. That is to go to Andrew Carlson, to get the real story. I don't know if you're still on there, Andrew, or not. Do you have something to say? I can't imagine you being in a little event without having something to say.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, put on your video. Let's see what you look like these days.
Let's see. Hold on 1 second.
Ah, there he is.
Well,
what's your opinion?
Well, my opinion is that I don't think it has to do with 5G. I think it's coincidence. But I think I do think there's something strange going on. I think this is a case of the people falling in line with what the experts tell you to say, and countries, like all the countries are copying each other. So I think when other countries saw countries freaking out, they started freaking out. So it was a cascading effect. That's my take on it. I think if you approach things from a more rational perspective, you're seeing that this is a major overreaction on the part of the experts, because like all you got to do is just go to I use a website called worldometers.info, I think it's called, and it basically tells you how many people are dying from certain things every day and how many people have died through the whole year. And so it says something like 30,000 people die from hunger every day, and it says that something like 350,000 people are born every day, and like 150,000 people die every day. So for the world population is actually going up by about 200,000 every day. So meanwhile, the whole world is freaking out over, in less than 3 months, so 2.5 months, only about 90,000 people have died in a 2.5 month period. Whereas if you look at all the other statistics of how many people are dying from other things, this is not that big a deal. It just seems like people were freaking out over, not over nothing, but over something much smaller than what it really is. So I think I'm not convinced that it was created in a lab or anything like that, although it's a possibility. But if it was from like the bats or whatever, that is a testimony to the food laws of the Torah to not eat unclean animals, and bats are included in that, of not eating them. So, but I think that this is something which the experts jumped on. Like they saw an opportunity to advance their agenda, and they jumped on it. I don't think they created this, but I think they are capitalizing on this, and they are, maybe not knowingly, but they are, they want to make people more afraid. Like they want to exaggerate fear, and probably their justification is trying to be as safe as possible. And to be as safe as possible, we are assuming the worst that it could possibly be. So they're kind of justifying it to themselves, and they're using this logic to put in place some dangerous precedents. I mean, some of these concepts that we're putting in place, there's some validity to it in a biblical context, but in this unbiblical context, it's very scary stuff, because they're using this, like, for example, the mandatory vaccines, where it's one thing, if people want to get vaccines voluntarily, that's their prerogative. Or any medication, if they want to get a medication, then that's, we live in the modern society. People, in depending what country you live in, you should be able to choose the medicine that you want. But to force medicine on someone against their will, that to me crosses a line. I think that's unacceptable.
This is something that they're considering right now, a vaccination for everybody in the country, and you have to do it.
The UK, I believe I was reading something about, in the UK, they want to do a thing where if they can be confirmed to have immunity, they can get a special passport saying they're allowed to travel. I don't know if they're actually doing that or if that's just a proposal, but yeah.
Well, UK, I think, if you look at, I've looked at a lot of their stuff, and it's almost draconian, some of the things that they're planning, if they go through with them or not. That's another
The American Revolution was started on less horrible offenses than what is currently being done.
Amen. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, the rest of you. And
True enough.
time to be gone.
Sorry.
Thank you. This
Thanks
is going
for
up
sharing,
on YouTube.
Jackson.
You bet.